Okay, well, hey, welcome everybody to Ask the Experts about Wowza Streaming Cloud. My name is Justin Miller, and I'm your host for today. With us is Mac Hill, Jeff Reese, and Andrew Ramberg. How's it going, guys?
It's great.
Good.
We're all located, I think, all over the United States. I'm at the main office here in Denver, Colorado. Jeff, where'd you say you were?
I'm outside of Phoenix, Arizona, and Mesa.
And Andrew?
Naples, Florida.
And Mac?
I'm in Branson, Missouri.
Missouri. Wow. So yes, we are definitely all over, but we are all here to talk about Wowza Streaming Cloud. These guys, just so you know, often answer your questions when you email in. So they are the end all, know all when it comes to Wowza Streaming Cloud. So for today, we're going to be reviewing, first of all, to begin, a couple questions that have come in via email about specifics that people would like to know about Wowza Streaming Cloud. We're going to answer those first, and then we're going to go into an open Q&A. In the open Q&A, please put your questions into the Q&A window. There are two windows there. There's a chat window and a Q&A window. You're welcome to type things into the chat window to chat with each other, certainly. And if there are specific links that we can give you to help answer questions, we'll put those into the chat window. But for incoming Q&A questions, please put your question, into the Q&A window. And Taya says, can you see questions from our email? I'm not sure if you sent in new emails right now. No, I can't. If you had sent it in, let's say 3 or 4 days ago, for sure, we are going to answer them. As well, I just want to do a quick poll with you guys, if you don't mind, before we get started. Here's the poll right here. And the polling questions, if you could please answer them, are number 1, are you currently streaming live video? So if you are, please put in a yes. If you're not, no. Number 2, what type of latency do you see in your stream? We'd love to know. As well as if you currently use Wowza, and what industry are you in? So I'm going to leave that poll up for a little while people are still joining us. I can see we've gotten a few more people that have come in as attendees. So thank you for joining us, guys. And again, if you do have questions, please type your questions into the Q&A window. In fact, just to make sure that those questions make it over to the Q&A window and you know everything is working, please feel free to type in now in the Q&A window. Let us know where you're from. We're all over the United States, as I just mentioned, so it's always nice to know where our people who use Wowza Streaming Cloud are coming from. I can see already 50% of the people here are currently using Wowza Streaming Cloud, so it's definitely great for us to know. And I can see nobody wants to tell me where they're from. That's okay, guys. Okay, give me 1 second here. And I'm going to end the poll, and then we are going to go into a Q&A. So I see a few more people are entering into the poll, and I see there's some people typing into the chat window that they're from Paris, France. Chad says he doesn't see the poll. Poll should be a pop-up, guys. I'm not sure if you're seeing what. On my side, it's a pop-up. I'm not sure what you're seeing on your side. Jeff, Andrew, and you guys, do you actually see the poll, or is it just on my side?
It came up for me.
It as a pop-up.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll end the poll now. So, guys, thank you. I appreciate you entering information into it. I'll do a quick end, and for anybody interested in seeing the results, I'm going to share them right now. So I see most of you guys are streaming. Many of you, are getting a latency of 15 seconds or more. And many of you are using Wowza Streaming Cloud, and you tend to be developers or in the live event industry. So great to know. Appreciate you guys answering those questions. And now we'll answer your questions. So let me just close this. And let's go into the first question. So there's about 11 questions that came in via email. We're going to answer those, and then we're going to jump into your questions in the Q&A pop-up. So question number 1, guys. Are there best practices for settings using Wowza Streaming Cloud?
And I can take that one from here. So regarding the best practices as far as encoding from our side, this was kind of generalized question, but from what it sounds like, it's based on what encoding specs should be sent to us. Usually we recommend that it varies. Basically, the main things that we see are the frame rate, the bit rate, and the keyframe rate or GOP rate itself. You always want to make sure that the data rate for your video is capable of containing the video you're sending. So if you send a 1080 file and it only has 500 kilobit bit rate, there isn't a large enough data stream for us to be able to actually package a file that size. And then your frame rate within digital video, it's very important because we're re-encoding these files into different formats like HLS. And it'll play back through RTMP multiple different locations. So it's important that these settings stay the same in order for us to then break them down. One of the main problems we see specifically with RTMP streams is HLS segments breaking down because they're not meeting mathematically correct keyframe rate. So as far as best practices, we do have a documented cheat sheet of sorts. I'll post a link here for everyone.
I posted it in for you.
Oh, okay, perfect. This actually goes through all of the settings plus everything else we kind of have. And if there is something you're having an issue with specifically, you can always open a ticket with us and we can take a look to help investigate too.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, thanks.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that too, what Jeff said. Everything is right on. The biggest thing is it's really important that you understand that more bit rate, more bandwidth does not always mean better. So the more that you send in that's over and above, it's just a waste of your egress charges. It's just costing you more. It's not a benefit. So if you send in way too high of a bit rate, it can affect how decode works. And so finding a balance, finding a healthy stream target or bit rate range is very important. So we have some details in that article that are helpful, but if you have more specifics or questions, reach out, and I'm sure Jeff will answer your ticket for you. All right.
Awesome. So this article that you're sending us is basically sort of the sweet spot in terms of settings for say 4K versus 1080p versus depending on what you're sending out.
It gives healthy ranges for sure.
All right. Number 2, can Wowza Streaming Cloud be configured to only be viewed by employees in our intranet?
I can take that. There's some options that you could use within Wowza Streaming Cloud to help limit that access to the authorized users or locations. We have a token authorization option. With that, the player would use a token hash within the playback URL used. And to restrict it even further, you could possibly host that on a website that's only accessible to the LAN users. That'd be one option. We also have a geo-blocking feature. If you use that and if you were to set it up where you're blocking the country that they're going to be broadcasting in, you could possibly whitelist the range of IP addresses of the users who are going to view the stream, if you know what those are. That'd be the public address that the CDN would see when they try to access it. So that might be another option. And we'll post a link in for those 2 articles we have on it.
Awesome.
And then there's also a suggested method for that. You could use those 2 options, but really the best practice in this case would be to use a local instance of Wowza Streaming Engine on the LAN. And you could use that to pull from Wowza Streaming Cloud if the source is coming from a location where you can't ingest locally on that LAN. But if it's just going to be used at that location, you might be better off just using Wowza Streaming Engine altogether at the LAN. And
would you suggest that if this was an intranet, but we're dealing with multiple locations. So in other words, they have their own network, between their headquarters and subsidiaries.
Yeah, I mean, using it locally is going to reduce the bandwidth required. I mean, if they go through Wowza Streaming Cloud for the entire viewing audience, if you have a large number of viewers on the LAN that go to access that at one time, you could pretty easily consume a lot of locations bandwidth by doing that. In this case, if you put the streaming engine instance within the LAN, basically you're pulling, one copy of each stream down that you're broadcasting, and now the redistribution of that happens within the LAN. You don't have to, everybody doesn't go out to one location on the internet at the same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to bottleneck your firewall, right? So
Yeah.
100 requests going out over your ISP, you'd see a lot of buffering, a lot of issues in playback there. So
Yep.
Fair enough. So Wowza Streaming Engine might be the answer when it comes to local area networks or just intranets in general, right?
Yep.
Next, does Wowza Streaming Cloud do near-second delays in streaming?
I'll take that. So the simple answer is no. And so Wowza Cloud, also with ultra low latency, there's two separate platforms that we have within that product umbrella. Wowza Cloud in general, you have two options with the ingest transcoding side. You can choose the standard, which has a default HLS distribution with 30 seconds plus transit. So 30 to 45 seconds would be normal. We would expect to see that with those default settings because we're sending out 10-second chunks. Your playlist is 3 chunks, right? So we're continuing to build that. And then again, time in, time of processing, and time to distribute. And then also it's going to depend on that last mile. What's the viewer's ISP have, and what's the device, what's the player saying it needs, right? So there's time in there. The other option you have on Wowza Cloud is choosing to do what we're calling a lower latency or a reduced latency configuration. And it's the same thing, except we've dropped the chunk durations from 10 seconds down to 2 seconds. And so we would expect to see between 8 and 12 seconds with HLS playback on that. Alternatively, we have the ultra low latency option, which ultra low latency is our proprietary protocol. We call it WOWS. And so right now we have a sub 3 second delivery method through that platform currently. And that sub 3 seconds is specific to our WOWS protocol. And so we deliver that to browsers over WebSocket, or we also will deliver that to iOS and Android through our SDK player. So it'll handle WOWS playback. If you use ultra low latency and still use HLS as a failover or a fallback, you're still going to see that 8 to 12 seconds of HLS because there's no way for us to get HLS that low, right? Not without beating up the servers and the edge servers and et cetera. So HLS just was not designed for low latency. That's the bottom line. So when Apple designed it, it was for the smoothest, best playback experience. And so it is what it is. And so that's why new technologies are coming out, like ultra low latency, WebRTC, et cetera. So I hope that answers your question.
So just to expand on that, I was at Developer Week over the weekend in San Francisco. There were many people using our GoCoder SDK to create apps both for encoding the stream as well as playing back. And they were actually seeing, close to a 1 second delay. And that's probably because they were on the same network. They're in the same building. They're in the same geolocation. And that being said as well, while we say a sub 3 second delay in the United States, we generally see about a sub 2 second delay. But if we're talking about globally, we have to standardly say a sub 3 second because that's what you'll get. So yeah, near second, it's probably close to impossible. But I mean, depending, right? Depending on where exactly on the CDN, as it were, you're located, how close to the edge you are. It really makes a difference.
And it's not about processing, it's all about network, right? And you have no control over your first mile, you have no control over your last mile. So if it was a situation like where you were accessing one single network globally, then that network has the ability to make that transport happen. It's just first and last mile are out of our hands. It's out of anyone's hands. So that's
Awesome. Thanks, Mac. Next question. Does Wowza support contribution streams to broadcasters? And what are the receiver end options? I have to say, I wasn't super familiar with contribution stream options before this. So I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say.
Yeah, we have actually, as far as I understand, contribution stream broadcasters. And if you're on, I can't remember who submitted this question, but if you want to put in any clarifications as we're talking about this, that's fine. But I will say, we have seen, we've done a situation, let's say, for example, with college basketball, where they're announcing, you know, we're coming up on it now in the U.S., right? But it's a bunch of different colleges all over the country, and they had a feed piped into each locker room as they were making announcements. And so the broadcasters wanted to be able to see in a much more real time, not have that broadcast delay, to make, just, you know, have a discussion and know what's going on. And so that was one of our first test cases for ultra low latency. And so all of those locations were pushing ultra low latency, and the broadcast station out of New York was watching them, and they were seeing about a sub 2 second experience on all of those, and they were able to have a quicker, faster experience. Again, nothing on cloud or even ultra low latency is really designed to be like a FaceTime experience. You know, talking back and forth, that a two-way discussion is not what it's designed for. But if you're wanting to see a situation and what's going on and report on it as quick as possible, that would be an option. Ultra low latency would be your best bet. And the alternative there, using cloud, is you can do the RTMP. So you can pull that source back as quickly as possible. So RTMP would be the best from cloud. Ultra low latency, you can just use the browser as it is to watch the WebSockets. That would be my suggestion. If you have more in-depth or more want or desires on that, let us know. Send us a message. I think Justin direct. Just here's his home number. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. But yeah.
Yeah, don't need people contacting me directly by phone, but I appreciate that.
But no, yeah, just reach out to us, and we're happy to unpack that more for you and talk about that. But you would just need something on the other end to watch, whether it's RTMP. I would suggest, like I said, since Flash is required with RTMP, then maybe you just go with the ultra low latency option.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely see some questions coming in, guys. I don't think they relate to specifically the questions we're at, but we'll definitely get to them. Again, for those people who may have joined us earlier, if you do have questions, please type them into the Q&A window, and we will definitely get to them after we get through these first 11. So that being the case, let's go to the next one, number 5. How do you guarantee the ultra low latency with the same quality of experience on the open internet?
So this is kind of a tricky question, mainly based on the last 2 words, the open internet, because that's really what it is. Once we've packaged the stream and sent it through the CDN and sent it through to playback, we don't really have any way to control anything beyond that. There's no way to directly monitor an end user's machine as they're playing back. Like, we can see player errors that are reported and a real general experience through our analytics. But as far as guaranteeing that experience, the main issue you're going to run into there is that not everybody on the internet has the same quality of experience with the internet in general. And this is an industry-wide issue. So if you've got one user who's on an iPhone 4 with a 3G connection on an older cell tower, they're obviously not going to have any quality of experience compared to somebody that's on like a 10100 connection that's directly connected via Ethernet in their office on anything, Facebook or any other service. One thing you can do to really help, at least in this case, is to be able to identify whether this is a potential overall issue or something that is a problem with the player, the delivery service. It could be a specific bug with the browser that you're seeing. That can be something that may be a problem we can fix on our side versus, so if you're getting like 100 errors, they're all using Chrome, they're all using Windows sort of thing. That could be indicative of a bug. Whereas if you're only having 2 or 3 users out of 100 that are complaining of an issue, that's where you would maybe want to look into whether they're using best practices on their devices and their network. So just basic stuff like clearing your cache and cookies, or restarting your internet modem or connection, restarting your machine. Things like that could help, and it could just be something stuck. And a lot of times when you see basic issues like that, really small, tiny fixes like that are really what ends up doing it. But as far as guaranteeing that experience, it's really just paying attention to what is the specific complaint, can you reproduce it, and then figuring out, getting to the point of whether this is an overall bug or whether this is something specific to that user's connection or their machine.
All right. Well, thank you for that answer. Yeah, I always have to say though, when they're saying quality of experience, sometimes I think they're relating this to the fact that our ultra low latency service can't do adaptive bit rate. So that definitely, like you said, you know, you have one stream at one specific bandwidth, and that's the bandwidth people need.
And that is something the industry as a whole is working on moving towards in the future too. Like latency is a huge thing that's overall between everybody. So, and it's definitely something that we're trying to look towards improving in the future too. It's just, again, guaranteeing anything in the open internet is really difficult to do in general, unless you control every aspect of that.
All right, thank you. And by the way, Wellington, I see your multiple questions. I did get your very, very long email. Mac also saw it. They're definitely going to look into all your questions. I can't promise we can talk a lot about GoCoder in this particular webinar, but certainly support will get back to you.
Yeah, we did create one for him. So it's with our developer support team right now.
So 6, what's the best way to scale using Wowza Streaming Cloud?
I think I said I would take that one, right? So that's kind of, again, that's kind of a general open question, but I would say this. So you've got the two major scale options, right? The ingest side. So what are your options with ingest? One of the things that we suggest, because just keep in mind, architecture wise, you don't cohabitate. So if Jeff starts a stream and I start a stream and Andrew all starts a stream right now, each of us get our own server instances. We do not cohabitate. So we would never end up on the same. We never want to put you in a situation where you are affecting or could hinder or derail someone else's stream, right? Makes sense. So because of that, you are, especially if you're a developer, you see that it takes a little bit longer for those instances to start up. And so with that, if you are doing some sort of app development or something and you need to fire up multiple instances, we suggest that you create a pool of transcoders and use those and manage those. And so on the fly, you're actually in a modular scenario. You're creating a transcoder, you're assigning it a stream target, and you're moving forward. Those are already created, they're already on your account, they're already yours at that point, and you're able to mix and match them as you see fit. One of the articles, I'll pop in here real quick, is a good one. So that's really ultimately creating a pool is what we're always going to go to. It's what we're always going to encourage you. If you're trying to create a whole bunch on the fly, you're going to run into limits, and that we do have a limits article. If you want that, let me know. But we do talk about, you can only get so many so fast, so soon. So we do have stream target limitations set at the account level, and so you can request more if you want. But in general, pools are the way to go. That's my biggest recommendation for you. On the playback side, on the edge side, it's no secret. Currently, the CDN that we utilize for distribution is tied to Akamai, and so you have access to the entire Akamai network, all of their edges. They've got them all over the world, and so scaling that. That's why we tell people it makes absolutely no sense for you to try to stress test or load test against their network. You're just burning bandwidth unnecessarily. So it's there, and the biggest event that I've actually supported, I've seen over 500,000 concurrents, and I know it can handle more. So they reassured us that it was there and it worked well, and it's there. So and that was just for one stream. So keep in mind, all of our customers concurrently, everything that's going on, on average during our day, we see 500 plus transcoders simultaneous, concurrent, and they're all running, and that's a lot of bandwidth, a lot of output. So yeah, so as far as scaling that, it's built in. If you build in on the ingest, if you create pools and script that accordingly, you'll see good results. So,
awesome. Yeah. I think in general, I mean, cloud is ready to go when it comes to CDN and everything. It's not like Engine where it's just one instance and you want to connect to a larger system, which I believe is question number 8. But I'll go to question 7 first. Question 7: How do you use geofencing at a more granular level than the entire country? So I guess someone wants to use geofencing. That's not specific to a country-wide level.
I can take that. Currently, the country is the level that we allow you to select through the user interface. If you want to get more granular than that, but the only option at this point is to use some sort of IP whitelisting. And like I'd mentioned before in my last question I was answering, we have the geo-blocking feature, and within that, there is an override whitelist option. So if you do know the location where they're going to be viewing from, you could possibly get the range of IP addresses and add that as a whitelist, and then block the rest of the country or countries nearby, that kind of thing.
So is geofencing an option under geo-blocking, or is that those two separate?
I think that's kind of the same thing. The geofencing, geo-blocking, I think we just have a little different term for that.
Gotcha. And you're just saying, sorry, Matt, go on.
But the bottom line is that we can't, at this point, whether it's reporting or whether it's actual functionality that they're needing, we can't go anything lower than the country level.
Right.
Well, you were saying IP address, but I mean, that's a big jump, right? Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. 8. And see, this is the one I was saying that goes right after. We should have put these in the other order. But what's the difference between our CDN option, so Wowza CDN, and the Wowza Streaming Cloud solution?
So to pick up where Mac was discussing scaling in the cloud, where we handle that automatically. And as Andrew stated in one of his earlier answers, that some instances it's better to have Wowza Streaming Engine. Unfortunately, not everybody is a delivery or CDN expert. So you do have the option with Wowza CDN to take your engine instance that you can manage and then have us deliver it for you. Whereas the cloud solution is the engine instance managed by us as well as a CDN delivery. So if you have more complicated restrictions and you need engine, the CDN would probably be a better idea for you. Whereas if you're a simpler studio and you just need to push a direct RTMP signal, then cloud would be more ideal at that point because it's more out of the box.
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to close my chat window. I'm looking at all the good links that you guys are popping up, and I'm just thinking when we make this recording available for people later, we should get these links and figure out how we can pop them in some way so people have access. Cool. All right. Number 9, what is the recommended way to implement live closed captioning to a live stream using Wowza Streaming Cloud? And they'd like to know the captioning services and devices that will work for this.
So this one is unfortunately kind of restricted in the way that current playback methods and what we can take in. We can only accept CEA 608 captions and on-text data. As on-text data is more HDS and RTMP related, most players aren't really going to work with that as they're going to be utilizing HLS more often than anything. So with CEA 608, you need to inject those into the stream. Now, Wowza can receive that data. I actually have some information here about it as well. But as far as the specific devices and services, that is a bit trickier because it depends on your encoder's capabilities. Why is this? Well, let me paste this in. Sorry. So if your encoder is capable of pushing the data, like I know, for instance, the Elemental 9000 series, or I think 6000 plus can push CEA 608. Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Just the little chat window froze up on me. If somebody can post that link for me, or I can post it in a second. But so if your encoder is capable of pushing CEA 608, and you set up a stream through us using pass-through, we will pass those through from there automatically. As far as anything outside of that, it's really reliant on the player itself and what it can process. Most players will pick those up. One issue you can run into, though, is specifically with the Apple HLS player. It'll pick it up as an unknown CC. There's a lot of different bugs you can deal with there. So you have to be kind of careful as far as how you're packaging them and everything.
Awesome. All right, good information to know about closed captioning with cloud for sure. Let's go to number 10. We've got two more. Question, how do we set up a VOD workflow? I think that's even a question somebody just asked in the Q&A, but let's talk about it. VOD and Wowza Streaming Cloud.
Right. So VOD playback has been a request from day one. It's logistically, it's difficult. It's very difficult. It has to be played back in a different manner. So currently, at this point, VOD playback from our platform is not supported. So once your recording is done, at this point, your options are to download it and to re-upload it either to your own deployment of Wowza Streaming Engine if you wanted to do that for all your VOD playback, or you could put it up on a third party like Vimeo or something like that. But that's as of right now, as of today, that's your option. So
right.
there is roadmap there. There are things coming. I have no time frames. I have no idea how long or what that looks like. So it's baby steps. We'll get there. But for today, this is what it is.
So simple answer, guys, you need Wowza Streaming Engine if you want to do VOD. We actually have some great tools, I believe, as modules available for people to implement should they want to have other easy upload options and so forth. We actually use our own engine, Wowza Streaming Engine, for our own video on demand. We host things or store things in S3. So, we definitely use it ourselves, but not through the cloud. So, all right, last question, guys. And I think you kind of answered this in the beginning, Mac, but what's the best way to configure the lowest possible latency HLS stream using Wowza Streaming Cloud with an RTMP source? So obviously they're transmuxing in this process.
Right. Yeah. So again, you have an option if you want us to do actual transrating, transcoding, transmuxing, and use the cloud workflow, the default cloud workflow. You can choose when you set up a live stream. You can choose lower latency option, and that'll configure the transcoder so that we're creating 2-second chunks, and we'll auto configure your stream target to the same as well. So from a cloud side, as far as you needing that functionality, that's the best way to do that. Your alternative is to use ultra low latency target, and then again, it will transmux it if you want HLS, but ultimately, if you're wanting something low latency and you're comfortable with either the player or even having an SDK option to create a player for mobile, which we provide you, then you can use that. So those are really your two options at this point. But yeah, good.
And I just popped that article we have too on the reduced latency into the chat. So
Thank you. Good.
Justin, we're not hearing you.
Yeah, that happens every time I cough over here. I try to mute myself and see what I get for it. All right, sorry guys, I'm back here. We are going to go into the Q&A questions now. We do have quite a number of them at this point, so let's see what we can get through. And again, Wellington, you definitely have some detailed questions there. We'll see which ones we can answer in this particular Q&A. So we'll start with Steve. Steve's asking, with the Wowza Streaming Cloud, how would I get a web-based stream from Wowza to baseband HD SDI? Are there any examples of existing workflows for companies that use this?
I mean, initially, my thoughts are you're gonna have to have something that can capture on site on at your location, right? So because it depends on most of those SDI baseband devices. I look like you've got to get it into that. So if you have some way of capturing it, or if you have another, let's say you've got another computer or laptop or something nearby, where even using FFmpeg, you could pull that in from cloud and make that available. But I'm not sure on what kind of devices you're going to have to use to get it to that SDI device you're looking to. So I know that's not as helpful as you wanted it to be, but it's really the first time I've heard this particular workflow. So in 4 years. So.
Yeah, my first thought is for some reason Osprey, because they need hardware, right? Oh no, my connection is unstable. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely they need to find the right hardware, basically, right, when it comes out. So another question is, I have a YI 4K action camera to push RTMP URL, but is there any text box? There's no text box to enter a stream key. So they want to know what their stream key is.
Yeah. So within cloud, the stream key would be the same as the stream name. So I'm not familiar with this one. Sometimes those cameras will want the entire URL. So it'll be, the host name, the host name, and then the application name and the stream name all in one. Sometimes it'll break it out where it's host name and app, and then your stream key would be the same as stream name. And in those particular cases too, just so you guys know, you have the ability to disable authentication. So sometimes those cameras don't support username passwords. So you would just need to make sure you disable authentication and use your stream name as a stream key, and it should connect.
All right. Steve's asking, where are your points of presence in regards to published points on your cloud platform? And I think you were answering that, Mac, already related to Akamai.
Actually, our points of presence. So we do use we openly use AWS, we use Google, we use Azure, all as ingest points. But I popped in a link there into the chat. You should see that, and that'll give you a list of all the locations for ingest that we currently have publicized, and we're continuing to add to that as we go along. So those will be your ingest locations.
Awesome. And Bill's asking here, he wants to stream, I believe 24/7 is what he was trying to say here, from an Axis camera with Camera Streamer. I'm not sure what he means by Camera Streamer. I believe we do have options just to go directly to an Axis camera, do we not?
We do. I'm not sure. I thought, isn't Cam Streamer an app? I can't remember if it's an app or a service. But yeah, I mean, I believe Cam Streamer supports RTMP anyway. So, I mean, I can't give you the specifics on connecting your camera to that software, but I can tell you we can go direct from your Access. We can suck it in RTSP. In fact, we even have an Access partner connection. If you go through the portal and check out the trial, if you don't have it already. But you can choose Access. It'll ask you for the IP. We'll pull it in, and it just works.
All right. Steve's asking also, do you support broadcast class forward error connection in Wowza? By the way, I'm curious, does everybody see these Q&A questions, or is it just us? If you guys can tell me, I'd always appreciate to know these kind of things. I thought only we can see these Q&A questions. But again, the question is, do you support broadcast class forward error correction in Wowza?
I can take that one. I've had a few questions on that in the past, and there's actually some backlog feature requests related to that. But currently, no, we do not support that. Mac, do you know what the status is on SRT ingest? Is that?
It's a soon on the roadmap.
Which might be an alternative where it's a little more reliable EVP.
Okay. And another question coming in is, do you have some API for live recording via iOS or Android, and live playback. Our goal is end-to-end live streaming application. And I assume as I'm reading this, they haven't found our free GoCoder SDK. So just so you know, we do have a free GoCoder SDK. I think that probably answers the question, guys. Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if they're inferring that they want to record local or not. But you know, from a cloud perspective, I mean that's more, you know, that's more to the like, sorry, like Justin said, that's more device SDK related. But you can always enable recording as part of your configuration when you're launching those. And so if you're referring to API, REST API with cloud, we have a whole Swagger doc I can share with you if you'd like. And yes, recording, you know, enabling and disabling recording is an option when you start the or when you configure and start the live stream. So
Yeah. If
yeah.
you want to check if for using just, you know, testing an encoder that we have that is for iOS or Android, you can always take a look at our Go coder. If you look up Wowza Go coder on Android for the store or iOS, I mean, you can just download it. It's free. But again, we have a free SDK, and we have videos on how to make a sample app with that if you just want to test it out. And using that sample app, you can both do the live recording, or sorry, not live recording, I should say, because it doesn't record unless you want it recorded in, let's say, the cloud or somewhere else. But it does do live encoding and then live playback. So I hope that helps out. Tala's looking for Steve, by the way, in the chat. I'm not sure if Steve's still here with us. I hope he is. She's asking if we're streaming ULL or normal. We are using Zoom for this because Zoom is a webinar tool that makes it easy for us to manage Q&A questions and registration and everything else, etc. So we aren't using our own service. If you were looking for a webinar service that did use Wowza Streaming Engine on the back end, I believe it is Workcast, if you ever want to check them out. I've been wanting to use them myself, but we don't actually have a nice studio for that at this point, so too bad. Should we continue on with Steve's questions if Steve's not here? What do you guys think?
Sure, you can watch a recording for the answers later.
All right, Steve, what sort of ancillary data do you support, like SCTE35, closed captioning? How does this pass through when transcoding through the cloud? I think we actually did this with closed captioning. I think Jeff answered this already, so we can just move forward. Chad wants to know if VOD is on the timeline. Can't really answer that at this point. I mean, we know people want it. We don't necessarily have a time frame about if it's ever going to happen on cloud versus the fact that it is completely available on Engine. Absolutely. We're being asked another question. How much of a latency can you get in using Wowza Streaming Engine? So they want to know about, I suppose they want to know about low latency with Engine. I don't know if you guys want to answer this. I mean, you guys are cloud, so...
It's fair to say that you can get low latency. I mean, you're in more control, you can do more customizations. And it's also going to depend on what protocol you want to deliver, right? So WebRTC, you can get some good low latency action there. And down the road, you may be able to even utilize our WOWS protocol as well, similar to ultra low latency. So those would be probably your lowest. Since RTMP is going away, you know, those are going to be your two lower options for now.
And for some of you looking to know what's going to happen in the future, just so you know, NAB is coming up in April. If we do announcements, we generally announce things at NAB. So you may hear about things in another 5 weeks. Brad is asking, your viewer metrics show unique viewer IP addresses and average viewing time. My clients are also interested in ping concurrent views, total view playbacks, and clicks. Would you be able to provide that?
Good question. So for today, no. Right now what happens is all that data gets dropped to us, we parse it, and we present it. But based on the way that it comes in, it has to come in from all of their edge servers and then drop into us. And so compiling that and doing actual data analytics and presenting that. It's not currently on our roadmap. I know that we are looking at improving this. I'm hoping later in this year that we're looking to improve that option. So there's been lots of requests. As more of you are event producers, you want to be able to give a nice presentation back to your customer. Here's how many people watched. Here's when they spiked, and this is how long they averaged. And right, this is all good information that you get to report back. It's good for your business. It's good for that. And so we've heard you. It's just a matter of how can we get that in, and how can we really parse it and make it presentable to you. So it is on our roadmap. It is something we're looking at. We're looking to improve. And I know that got into sort of a product management kind of area, but it's coming because it is asked for quite a bit. So just know that it's on our want list as well.
All right. And by the way, Tala, thanks for talking with Steve over there in the chat about closed captions. Always good to see people helping each other. Your question is, there is no face-to-face as far as I know from satellite. Oh, okay. You're answering somebody else's question, I think, here. But yes, we don't have our system is not designed one-to-one. Our system's definitely designed for one-to-many. Okay, now we've got some Wellington's questions. Wellington said, we found a few references to Wow's protocol when looking through the logs in both iOS and Android. What is it and how does it work?
I can take that. I mean, the Wow's protocol is similar to what an RTMP protocol was, and it functions with a lower latency than obviously like HLS, similar to RTMP. And we do use that with the ULL streams. And like Mac had mentioned, it might be coming to other platforms as well too.
The important part, sorry, go ahead. As I said, the important part is the only way to watch a Wow's protocol stream at this point is through either our player or our ultra low latency player builder, or through the SDK player. That's the only way to do it. So it's not something you can go to one of the JW player or BitMoven or anybody or even VLC. It's
right.
It's its own protocol at this point.
Right. So if you're doing mobile development, which I know you are, certainly using the Wow's protocol for both encoding as well as playback is a great choice. And through our ultra low latency, it's a perfect choice. You're also asking about some use cases for data events. Not really sure what you're referring to. So if you want to explain more details, maybe we can answer that. You were saying you request a new stream target in Wowza Streaming Cloud for every new live event. So we've been accumulating a list of stream targets, and we're not sure if that's the best way to handle this.
So two things: data events. Yes, imagine like a quiz app. Somebody who's doing a live quiz app, they're injecting metadata, usually AMF data, and we convert that for playback. So it's triggering. You're listening for it on the player side. So that would be one way to use that. As far as the stream targets, it depends on your workflow and what you're wanting to do. If you've got some sort of a streaming platform that you're building out that looks like a white label over us or something like that, then I would suggest that you have your customers reuse their streams. That's what I would do. I would segment them within your own database so you can match them up. If it's an app scenario where it's I want to, let's say it's similar to Facebook Live or something where I want to fire off my app and just go and play and stream. Again, if you have people being registered, I would still tie them back to their own streams. So it depends on your workflow, depends on what you're trying to do. Like I said earlier, when it comes to scaling on the ingest, anytime you can build a pool and manage the pool and be in control of what's available, that's the best thing to do. Otherwise, you will, it's not scalable. If you had, let's say you're an app and all of a sudden 10,000 people decided to fire off at one time, it's not scalable. You will hit limits, and we have limits in place to protect other customers, right? So to avoid those headaches, to avoid hitting that ceiling at some point, when you're successful, and you got to look ahead and know what's coming, right? So build a pool, jump in the pool, use the pool, right? So that's where I'd say to go with that.
Awesome. Thanks, Mac. So Wellington, you do have a number of questions here. I'm not sure how much of your questions are related to cloud versus engine. I saw your email that came in. I know you're using both and you're trying to figure out best solutions. I definitely think the email that you sent in was great, and certainly support will help you with that, as well as your GoCoder SDK issues. We definitely can't assist you with that here on this particular webinar, but definitely through support we can help you out. I'm not sure if any of these, like when you're asking about keyframe intervals and so forth, are related to, again, cloud or engine. So if you want to maybe respond to which one, again, this is specific. This whole webinar, as well as our experts here, are focused on cloud. So we can't necessarily answer all your questions on engine. So if you want to add some more information to some of your questions, or just list it as a new question, I'd appreciate it. Unless Mac or any of you know which one they're referring to, because I'm not sure if they're referring to cloud or engine when they're talking about, for example, optimizing transcoder resources.
Yeah, I would do that via ticket so we can see what's going on with the workflow specific to that.
Steve's asking, will I be able to transcode from RTMP to RTP UDP on a cloud streaming platform?
No.
All right. And is our DRM Widevine L1 available in Wowza Streaming Cloud?
No, not at this time. So all that security, the geo blocking, the token off, all that's going to be coming, it has to come from the CDN. So we have no way to tie in your DRM in through our Wowza Cloud. But you would have to have a Wowza Streaming Engine deployment of your own to do that.
I mean, Wowza Streaming Cloud as a service is a lot more limited in general than Engine, and as you can see, Steve, and as you're asking these things, you're asking right now, can you use Cloud and Streaming Engine together? And the answer to that is yes. Just so you know, we do have videos on how to, say, stream target from Engine to Cloud, should you need to do that. And I believe Wellington is also using Engine and Cloud together. So just FYI. Okay, Talia, multiple questions. Can we watch a ULL stream in VLC player or any RTMP receiver? And I believe as Mac was answering before, no, because it's using the WOWS protocol. And that means pretty much you can use our players, and that's it. 2, you can't connect to a Wowza Streaming Cloud I cannot connect to Wowza Streaming Cloud by using the connection code under the ULL settings. I sent an email but wasn't satisfied.
Correct. The connection code does not work on everything yet. So that's a work in progress. Specifically, I know Androids can't. iOS encoders using the SDK should be able to, or using or even the store bot Wowza GoCoder broadcaster. But outside of that, it's really it's a feature that's there that carried over from other stream targets, because that's how we classify those. And so it's not a functioning, currently at this time, it's not functioning. So back to you being a developer, at this point, you've got to use REST API and you've got to pull back the stream name. Okay. That's, for now, that's our only option.
I believe with, I guess this is a ULL question specifically based on what they're saying.
Correct.
Yeah. It doesn't. Fortunately, it doesn't work with ULL, and in some cases, to be honest, I've tested, building the sample app of GoCoder, and on playback, it doesn't work either. So I believe it can, however, be used for a standard Wowza Streaming Cloud stream for encoding still.
Right. So it's not. Although it appears there, it's at this point it's not working, and that's no issue.
And question number. Oh, sorry. Go on.
As I say in the third question there, that's a great question. At this time, we just don't have an interface for you to review that. I do know it's in the works. It's something that they're wanting to provide you as a for event producers, etc. You can pull those stats via REST API If you look at the version 1.3 on the, I posted it in earlier, but the version 1.3 for the Swagger docs of our REST API, you should be able to see how to pull those stats real time.
So feasibly, Mac, are you saying it might be possible to implement it as part of a application, like as an app?
They could pull via REST API. They could pull this stuff back, the details back, the stats back, and parse it in a way that it appears on a screen or something.
That's specific to Cloud, though. The Cloud's API as opposed to the Go Coder.
It was specific to ULL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's wanted to see the details, resolution, bit rate, et cetera, for the encoded streaming. Because right now in Streaming Cloud, if you're using our transcoders, we give you the nice snapshot. It refreshes every 5 seconds and all of that. We don't have that in ULL at this point. So, and we didn't implement that just because we're not transcoding, and so it requires at this point it requires the transcoder for our module to do that. And so, not using that transcoder module at this time wasn't a good way for us to capture that in the decode. If that makes sense. On ULL.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'll answer this next one by Sharsher Levy about Go Coder SDK with an external Android player. Again, as Max stated, it's using the Wowza protocol. So no, we do have a player built into Go Coder SDK. If you don't see that, it's because you're using an old version of the SDK. You may need to download a new one as well as get a new license key. If you're not seeing it, the old version of the SDK did not provide a playback option, but the new one already does, and it does use the Wowza protocol as well as HLS. Another question coming in: will you please provide stream configuration setup for action cameras like other cameras?
So that is completely based on partnerships. So if you are the owner of Action Cameras, or if you know the owner of Action Cameras and they want to reach out to us, send something up to support. I can get you connected with the right people to have a conversation, but it requires some talking. It's just not, we don't just randomly put those in there.
So hopefully, if you can get something happening for us, we'd love it. Chad's asking, is Nutex NDI input or output on the roadmap?
Sorry, I'm missing that. What was that?
He's asking about Nutex NDI input or output.
Oh,
and I guess that's our relationship with Nutex. So it's at 11:36 a.m.
Yeah, nothing at this time that I'm aware of. NDI typically, I mean, based on how we do things, that would be more remote, or more local based. Where NDI is looking locally for sources, etc. So I don't see us integrating that at this time.
Okay. Tala, if you're talking to Chris Cross, I suggest you ask Chris Cross. Sometimes these things don't come down to the rest of us. So definitely he would know about answering to improving or exporting usage for an event better than we would. Another question is CMAF fragmented low latency on your roadmap? Again, we are not the roadmap people, unfortunately. We can't say for sure any of these, but if it's important to you, definitely you can reach out to support. I'm sorry guys, I don't mean to bring them to you. at webinars@wowza.com, that's me. And definitely I'll send that to the right people that you're interested in seeing those things. I have to admit, I think I'm running out of battery power here. I assume my battery would last for more than an hour. And we are almost out of time, so we are gonna, I'm sorry guys, we can't get to all the questions here. We do have a few more. Should we go down the list to what's left, or what do you guys want to do?
We can give it a shot. I mean,
okay.
the Wellington on all of your questions are very workflow specific. Keep pressing on those. A lot of those are developer questions, and we have a great developer support team. So send those questions in. I know if those were in that list from earlier, we've already got a ticket going, and we may break that out into different topics. So just be aware of that. But we'll keep pushing on that. Jennifer, duplicating live stream events, being able to basically do a copy paste or a duplicate. At this point, I don't see that being a feature at this time, but I send something in. I would love to get something in support and create a feature request for you on your behalf and give you all the credit for that. Shane Wowza working a way to get real-time viewer numbers faster in cloud. We are working on it. But you're right. Currently, right now, all of that data has to come in. We have to parse it, and then we update it as we receive it. So it's the nature of the beast for us currently with our current partnership. And then Tala, I need to ask my question again. If you find a way to watch ULL and VLC, because you know a way, because you're a magician, should you share that with us? Sure, share it with us.
Yeah, I'd love to know. And yes, I will accept your LinkedIn request. Yeah, you can share it to me that way too. I'm very curious. I'd love to see it on VLC. So that's great. Well, hey guys, I do appreciate you all taking time out to come to this webinar. Jeff, Andrew, Mac, I appreciate you guys taking the time to answer questions here. If you really liked this and you'd like to see more Q&As like this, definitely please shoot me an email at webinars@wowza.com, because we really want to know, does this help, or is there a better way of going at it? You know, we want to hear your input. We always appreciate that input.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for hosting, Jason. Justin, we appreciate it very much.
No problem. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Cheers.
See you, everyone.